Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first session, or actually our second session for the May monthly training. Our topic this month is focused on the importing process in SalamanderLive. In today's training, I'm going to walk you through how to use the import feature to add and update multiple records at one time, as well as walk through some best practices to help minimize errors in your import. During the training, if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask or send a message through the chat. And as always, our calls are being recorded. These will be posted within our SalamanderLive YouTube channel, so you can go back and review those if needed afterwards. So the import feature in SalamanderLive allows two types of data to be imported in, and they are people and equipment. The import feature does allow you to add new records in the system or to update existing records. To complete the import, there are 3 steps. First step is preparing the import data. Step 2, performing the import. And then step 3, reviewing the import results, which are emailed to you once you complete the import. Now, to help you with step 1, we do have quick reference guides and import templates available in SalamanderLive that you can use and follow. Just going to pull up SalamanderLive. I see a question coming through already. Will this work with inventory? Absolutely. When I say equipment, I also mean inventory. So it's both consumables, non-consumables included that. So we're going to walk through the people side first. So in SalamanderLive, once you log in, you'll see in your left menu, there should be an import link. So what you'll want to do is go ahead and click on that. And then from there, you're going to see that there are 2 types of records you can import that we just talked about, people and equipment. So we're going to walk through the people side first, and then we'll walk through the equipment/inventory side second. So if you click on people, what you're going to see is the import wizard. So the import wizard is as simply as uploading your file, and then that's it. And then reviewing your results. However, I wish it was that simple, right? So first step again is to prepare your data. Now to help you prepare that, like I said, we've got 2 documents in here. So if you look here, there's 2 click here links. So there's 2 areas you can find this. One is within this import wizard. The other is if you go into Salamander University, there's a document section and one that's called Quick Reference Guide and Templates. You'll be able to find these same documents in there. So what you'll want to do is make sure that you download both. So make sure you click here to get the People Quick Reference Guide as well as the CSV template. Okay, so you want to make sure that you have both. So let's take a look at the quick reference guide real quick here. So in here, and I'll make this nice and large, we have an import checklist. So this is just to help you or help ensure that your import process runs smoothly, right? Making sure that you have everything in place, and it's really to minimize those import errors. So you want to go through and double check and make sure that you have answered all the questions in this checklist. Number 2 here is format requirements. So our import wizard only allows CSV files. So you can work in Excel all day long. However, at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you save that as a CSV file. If you don't, the import wizard's not going to be able to find that file. Okay. Couple things to note on here is that column headers are specifically named. So we have the specific names within their import template. It's going to be in row 1. And then you'll see in here, we've got them listed here as well. The quick reference guide obviously is going to have all the information that's going to help you fill out that template. So it's going to have already filled out the column headers. It'll show in here you've got your max length for that field, the type, whether it's text or number, the accepted formats and values, and then we also provide examples if needed and any notes to review. Right? So this is making sure that you have everything. So the very first one is organization name. So anything asterisk in this case is required. Same thing if you were to manually enter in a personnel record, it's going to require the organization name, ID, first name, last name. So looking at this organization name is just like in Salamander Live. That organization has to exist. Okay. So if it doesn't exist, it's not going to import. Also, the name has to match exactly. So when you're typing in that name and that column 1, sorry, column A, row 2. So I'm going to pull up my template over here. Here's the template. So if you're looking in here, we have all the names entered in the template. So column A, row 2 is where you're going to start entering in for your very first record. So the organization name has to match exactly within Salamander Live. So if you are using abbreviations in this case, so if we go into organizations over here, you want to make sure that you type it exactly as you have it within Salamander Live. Okay. So in this case, in these organizations, I haven't abbreviated any of them. Some of them are, like for example, if one's called DFD, so on and so forth, okay? So you want to make sure it's exactly. You'll see in here if this one is Forestville County of EM. So again, that's EM, not emergency management, so you have to type it exactly as that. And it has to exist in that database, okay? Next is the ID number. ID number is also required. So you have your options here. So for each person, if you're looking at using the system generated, you can leave this ID field blank. If you leave it blank, what's going to happen is the system is going to know that you want to use a system generated ID. Okay. If you want something custom for that, for example, you're looking at using people's employee ID number, badge numbers, enter that in here. Okay. And of course, first name and last name are the last two required. So these are the ones that are required right here. Anything else that's on this template is optional outside of these 4 required fields. So if you're not using those fields, delete them. Highly recommend it. It keeps your template nice and clean. So if you go in here into your template, it even talks about that. Okay. So it tells you to keep things nice and clean. Make sure you're deleting, delete them if you're not using them. So you'll see it up in the template up here. See, delete empty columns. Question, can you go back and change the auto-generated ID? Absolutely. So if you use an auto-generated ID, so in this case, in the import template, you kept this blank and it created that record. In Salamander Live, you can go in there, edit the record, and change that ID number. Once that ID number is created, you cannot use the import to update an ID. Okay? So the import is only to create a custom ID or to create a generated ID for that individual. And I also have that listed here as well. So again, the reason why it's not going to allow you to update it, it's because the person is matched by first name, last name, and ID. Couple things on here. If the import finds multiple matches, it's not going to import. Okay, so for example, some organizations have multiple people that work in multiple departments. And in this case, they have that same ID that's shared within those, let's say, those 2 records. Let's say you've got an individual, and I do have that in here, an individual that works in 2 departments. Okay, so if I go to my people here, so like for example, Lisa Gold here, see her record. She works in public health and she's also works in emergency management. And you'll see that she has the same ID in this case. If you have an individual that is similar to this example right here, you cannot use the import to update her existing records, okay? Because it's going to find that she's got 2 records. It's not going to know which one to update. And so if you have a situation as this, you have to go in and manually update their information. Another question on here, ID and spreadsheet. If I designate an ID and unknowingly it already exists in Salamander, what would result on live? So it's not going to import at all. So it's going to tell you that when you go through the import process, there's an email that's sent out to you. That email is going to have the results of your import. So in there, you would pop up an error that says that ID number already exists and is attached to someone else. Oh, let me go back to my template. Right. So anything over here that you're not using, again, simply delete from here. It's as simple as that. Okay. Status. If you leave status here, just know that status is a pick list. So by default, if you leave this blank, the person's going to go in as active. If they're not active and you want to put in that, let's say they're retired or on leave, you want to make sure that you use the list that's in here. Okay, so there's a specific pick list in this quick reference guide. So if you scroll down to status, this is your list of what you can enter in. Okay, so this is exact. So if they're on leave, and in this case, are they on leave or are they on medical leave? Okay, or are they retired? You want to type that in exactly. So if I go to my template and I go in here at status, let's say she's on medical leave, I would have to type that in exactly. Okay. Another question, can you import all the other records exempting the duplicate? Absolutely. So it's not going to just say, oh, your import file, it's not going to go through. So it's going to look at every single record in there. Okay. So it's going to look at every single record. So in this case, if let's say line 3 is the one that has that duplicate that with that ID number, only line 3 row or record 3 is not going to import. Everything else, as long as there's no issues with those other records will import that you have in your import file. Okay. Birth date, station, title. Obviously, you want to make sure that you put title in there. Highly recommended. That prints off on our standard ID designs. So make sure that that's something that you always include in your import. You have email option. I mean, you can kind of go through this and kind of see rates. If you're looking at entering rates for people, don't use dollar signs. And I have that also in the import guide. It tells you that. Okay. Numbers. So in this case, you've got home phone number, mobile number, fax number, work phone. In here, I know it's kind of blank on here. Let me just move this. For columns AAAB, tag issue date, tag expiration date. This is only when you're looking at updating existing records that you've already printed off an ID card for, and you need to change those issue date and expiration dates. So let me just walk through that real quick here. So when you print off ID cards for the person, so for example, I'm going to take a look at Annie Apple right here. So I'm going to click her record, click the print button. Let me show you exactly where that information is being stored from. So in here, you have the print settings window. This is what's going to be saved within the record. Whatever you enter it in here for those selected records when you print your print job, it's going to save that within the record, okay? This information can be updated using the import. So if you go into the record, let's say we go to Annie Apple's record, you'll see it at the top there. So again, only works for those that you've already printed and have existing issue and expiration dates. So if you're printing, you're not using issue expiration dates, obviously you're not going to be updating that using the import. Okay, so this is what it's going to be updating. Address type is a pick list. And you want to make sure that you go through that quick reference guide that has that. You have all your medical information over here. And then going all the way to the very end is going to be qualifications, which I want to talk and touch on. So there's 5 different qualifications that you can upload in at one time for a person. Okay. And in here, it's looking for the coding, not the name of the qualification, but the code. So what's in the parentheses. So again, I'm going to show you this. So in SalamanderLive for the person, so we can scroll all the way down, go to qualifications and training. So you see it's the coding system. So if we scroll down, what we're looking for is what's in the parentheses right here. So let's say they are fire certified. You want to put the coding system. So in this case, fire cert. Okay. Or if they're a scuba diver, you want to put in this code right here. If that's when you're looking at adding. If they're a advanced medical technician, EMTA is what you would enter that in and the import. Okay. So in this case, that's all I'm doing. EMTA. You can do up to 5 each time. So each import, you can do up to 5. You can't just go in here and add in qualification code 6 and 7 and 8 and so on. Okay. So it ends at 5. Leave again these column headers as is, don't change them. So if you have a person that has, let's say, multiple qualifications that you want to import in, so once you do this import, what you're going to do is just grab that information and then just import in the qualification codes, the new ones, in a new import. Okay, so just delete the rest of the information that's already been imported in. Just leave these 2 or these 5 columns in there, add the new 5, import that in, add the next 5, add those in. Okay, and then now you've got a bunch of import or qualifications that's been imported in for your people. Another thing to know in qualifications is that the issue and expiration dates for those qualifications, if you have qualifications that have that information that you want to store, those are not included in the import. Okay, so those have to be done manually within the record. So once the import's done, you'll have to go into that record and you'll have to edit those and add them. Okay, so if they're fire certified in this case, you'll have to go in here and add in the certification number and issue an expiration date for the ones that you want to store that information. So that's as of today, just there's no import process for that. Another thing to note is that your sheets, don't create and add multiple sheets in this case. So one sheet per import. Okay, one sheet per import. Add in the organization. Leave the ID number in this one blank. Put this person's name. Okay, just copy that. Let's say it's the same organization. Maybe it's a different organization. Again, it could be 2 separate organizations on here that you're looking at adding. Okay. So just go back to your organizations, double check and make sure that the organization is spelled correctly. So I'll go and add another organization in here, and I'll do a import as well too. Oh, let's see here. We can do Burns Fire Department. Okay. So again, I'm just double checking, making sure that's correct. And then I'll also do one that's for an existing person. So let me just clear this out. Let me do, let's see here, Brian Armstrong. Okay. So I'm going to update his existing record. So this is actually, let me do Chris Avery. Moosewood County Emergency Management. So again, if you're doing it in this way where you're doing a new with existing, which you can, all you're doing is just going in here and grabbing his information. Okay. You're just going in here, grabbing his information. So Chris Avery, you can go in here, copy and paste his ID. Because we're looking at updating his existing. Now there's another way you can do this. I'll show you in a little bit here on how you can do that. Okay, so here's the ID number. Change that into a ID. So in this case, it's that 5th column. It's in here is general. This is not us. This is Microsoft that it's just putting into that scientific notation. All you do is change it to a number and then move the decimal points over. Okay. Okay. And then Chris Avery. In an update, what is it that you're looking at updating? Okay, again, you can remove this information as needed. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to leave this one as active. So just leaving it as is. This one, I'm going to name this as so in this case, let's see that let's go in here and add a birth date. Okay, so adding a birth date in here. Okay, so that's all I'm doing is I'm adding a birth date. Now, if he already has an existing, it's going to override. So whatever you put in here, if there's already, like say for example, his title is IT manager. Okay, and then I change his title, it's going to override whatever's existing within that in that field in SalamanderLive. Okay. So in this case, I'm done. Let's say I'm done in here. I've got my 2 people that I'm adding new, and I have 1 record that I'm updating. This case, all you do is you're going to save this, save it as. So again, it's already saved as a UTF. So again, you can save it as CSV. So you can select this very first one or this one down here. The files automatically save as UTF-8, but again, if you're working off Excel, you can select either one. When usually I work outside of our template, I will save it as this. I'll select this option, CSV. Okay. So in the case, I'm going to throw this into a folder, into my templates on my desktop. Okay. So import 17, go ahead and save. Again, you can name it as what you need. Jennifer has a question. Can you just click on the box and copy and paste? What do you mean by that? Like this cell and copy and paste?
Well, when you first started, there was a excuse me, there was a box that had the list of names. So, and I was kind of wondering on that page if you could just click that box, copy it, and then modify the information for like a single person.
Ah, you mean in SalamanderLive? So in
Mm-hmm.
here?
Correct.
Yep. So these are columns. So if you try to copy and paste it from here, like in this case, it's not going to because this is actual website. So you have to go into that record and then highlight and then grab it.
Oh, okay. Because
Yep.
like if to the left there's a box, so I was just kind of wondering, can you just click that box and copy it?
No, this box right here is to provide other options for you.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
So it's a
Thank you.
select the record and then there's other things you can do to that record based off that
Oh, okay.
selection. Mhm.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So I've got my record saved. Saved in here. So I've got my import file. I'm done. I'm set to complete my import. So I go over here to import, click on people. I browse, go in, find my file. So in this case, I just place this in my desktop. Here it is, my number 17. Again, you name it whatever you want to that you can find it. So all I do is I select it by double clicking. It's going to add it here. So you should see your name file there. Make sure it's a CSV. Again, if you didn't save as a CSV and you're looking and it's not listed, that means you didn't save as a CSV. Okay, so it's got to be a CSV file. All you do in here is upload file. Once you upload file, you're going to see this. It says you're going to receive an email within 15 minutes. So now what you're doing is you're waiting for the results. Okay. So you're going to go into your email. Okay. Go into your results and you're going to see this. Okay. So in this case, already have some issues in this case. I must have typed in something wrong. So in this case, it tells me my username. So import complete. It's going to tell you how many records it processed. So it should see the total. So again, from row 2 and beyond. So row 2 and beyond, so I have 3 records. So it's saying it processed 3 records, but however, out of the 3, how many did it add and how many did it update? Right. So from there, it's telling me right here that I have 1 error. So if you have errors, that means that row number 4, did not import. So in this case, it says organization name Moosewood County Mercy Management was not found. Okay. So I think it's Moose. Yeah, it's I typed it in wrong. So it's Moosewood Emergency Management is what I was supposed to type in. Okay, so I typed it in wrong. So that's why it's telling me that this is incorrect. So I have to go in and fix this. So row 4 is the one that didn't import. So in this case, it didn't update Mr. Chris Avery's record with his new with his birth date. Okay, so that's what it's telling me. The other two records imported in, however, there was two possible issues. In this case, it's just telling me the status. So I didn't put a status in those for row 3 and 4. I mean, 4 didn't import anyway, so it's going to automatically skip that, but it's telling you that, hey, just in case you're going back in and fixing row number 4, take a look at the status field as well. So it's telling you it's not valid, it's been skipped. In this case, we left that blank. All it's doing is saying, because you left it blank, it automatically is going in and adding it as active. So you can just ignore this if you ever see this. The only time you wouldn't ignore it is if it says status that you entered in is not valid, meaning it's not one of the selected, and it'll tell you specifically what you entered in and why it didn't accept that. Okay. So these are just some of the typical warnings and errors that you may get. Okay. I'm going to pull this up, so just walk you through this again. Okay. Let me go in and here it is. So in the quick reference guide, I already have all of this information in there. So again, talks about errors in this case. You've got warnings and then any notes. So in this case, if you did an import and the record already exists and you didn't do any changes to that, you'll see this note down here. So again, anything that occurs outside of these two sections of errors and warnings, you'll see it as a note. Just read what that note says and then you can either ignore it or go in and fix it. Same thing with all your warnings. So if there's a bunch of different warnings that you could see in there. Like for example, in this case, ID code too long, country code too long, equipment cost not valid. I put a $sign in there. It doesn't accept $signs. Purchase date is not in the correct format you see in here. So again, this is how you can go and fix that. Leastwood City is not found. So again, that means that this organization doesn't exist. Okay. So those are the results for a completed. For an import failed, if you ever get this where your entire import failed, the the main reason for that is because you are missing required column header information. So it's either incorrect or it's missing from your import file. This goes for both people and equipment. Okay, so in this case, if I'm missing, let's say in this case, instead of first name and last name, let's say you exported out your people from a different system and you're looking at importing into our SalamanderLive system. In this case, this was actually not first name and last name. That wasn't separated by two columns. Just said name in this case. Okay. Just had name. Okay. And so that it was in as this. This, you're going to automatically get an error, a complete fail, because it's looking for both columns, first name and last name, not a name. Okay. So that's just one example. Another example is if you're missing the column name header is incorrect. For example, you just put an organization, that's not going to go through. It's got to be organization name. Or you're completely missing this from the import. Okay. So again, anything that's related to those required fields. Another question on here. Is there a way to get an exported listing of all the qualification codes and descriptions in the database? To answer your question, Carrie, yes, I do have a Excel document of all the qualifications from the tier 1 folder. Again, this document's from 2020, so if we've added anything new from then, it may not be listed in here, but I do have it from that tier 1. So what I mean by tier 1 is that folder tier 1. So I'm going to go into a person so I can show you this. So in the qualifications and training, there could be multiple folders. Tier 1 is that one that's managed by Salamander. So these are the ones I have. Any that were created by you or your organization. So again, that's all done through the qualifications and training section. So what this section is restricted to administrator users at top level. That means that they have to be at the account organization and be set up as an administrator for them to go in and manage the qualifications and training section to create qualifications, custom qualifications for tier 2, 3, 4, and 5. So those I don't have. Obviously, those are going to be very specific to your organization. You'll have to go in there and grab those, but I do have these. If you put in your email address in here, Carrie, I can send that to you. Anybody else that wants that Excel document, put your email in here. I will send it over. You may see in that Excel document there's going to be color coding. That means nothing. That was just to help our development team and them organizing in a way that made sense for them to import them in. Okay. Any questions so far on importing for people? All right. Now let's say that you have a bunch of people in the system. Let's say you've done your first import. It was just to add everybody into the system. Let's say 6 months down the line, you got a bunch of people that you need to edit. Okay. So in this case, there's two different ways that you can do this. One, obviously, you can do it within the SalamanderLive system without using the import. This method works only if the records you're editing have the same edits, meaning you're making the same changes to those selected records. So in this case, let's say I've got a bunch of people in here. I'm gonna go back to my public health one. So again, what I'm doing is I'm organizing. I'm just filtering out my data by organization. So I click on the organization column, do a filter. I'm just do starts with, and it's going to list the organizations. So I select my organization. Let's say it's pub. So now my data is filtered. So I've got some 22 records for this. So let's say I've got a bunch of people in this that I need to update. Okay, let's say I'm missing title, or they've got a promotion. So these individuals got a promotion. They got the same title. Okay. What I would do is there's a couple ways you can do it. Again, same edits. So I can select those records that have the same edits. You see this? Same edits. So in this case, I'm selecting the 4. It's going to pop up the edit multiple icon. So it's an edit pencil icon. Click on that. I can go in here and fill in the information. Whatever I fill in on this form is going to make the change for all the selected records that I have before. Okay. So anything I make changes on here, let's say they've got a rate change, the rate is the same for the four individuals I selected. I'm going to type that in. So I'm just put in 35. Update. When I go in here, those records are going to update with those changes. Okay. I can go up here if I want to see those changes. I can go up here to edit columns and add those columns in here. So in this case, I changed the rate. So if I want to double check, make sure the rate took, I can go in here down all the way down to standard rate. I can add that. Go to the top. Okay, I can, and it's right there. I can just click done. If I don't like it there, I want to change the sort order. I can click, drag and drop and move it anywhere where I want it to go. Okay. Once I click done, it's going to see the standard rate and you'll see it's been added. See, $35, it updated that. The other way you can do this is through an import, obviously. So in this case, what you're going to do is you're going to go again, look at the records. What are you looking at updating for those records? So in this case, maybe you have a bunch of standard rates. You have to update phone numbers and title, and they're all different for everybody. So again, set your filter, add your columns in here by going up to edit columns. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pull this into a report. So click on the report icon. You're going to see this CSV export. This is the only report that's listed here that is customizable. It's customizable because it's based off of the column headers that you've added. Okay. The filters apply to every single one of these reports. However, these reports here, they're canned reports, so there's specific information that's pulling from these. So I'm going to export this data that I have right here on my list view into a CSV report. Once I do that, I can open that up and you'll see all that data populate through. Okay, so here's my data. Now this very first column is just something I have in here, so I got to delete that. So again, we don't have a column that's called last updated for importing, so delete that. Everything else, you're going to leave. So in this case, you'll see my ID numbers. Again, it's been placed into scientific notation. Again, this is a Microsoft thing. You could turn this off. There's a file. If you go to File, and then there's an Options, and if you go in here, there's one called Data, and you can turn that off. So that's user base. So you can turn that off. Okay. So what I'm going to do is first is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to change the ID numbers to number. So again, I'm going to click up here, change to number, and then move the decimal point over. So you'll see underneath the number, there's the decimal points. I'm going to move it over twice so that there's no decimal point. Okay. From here, what are the records I'm looking at updating? Okay. So in this case, there's a bunch of people that have missing titles. Okay, so in this case, I can go through this list and say, oh, these are the individuals I don't need to update. I can delete them from this. Or these are the people that I'm looking at updating. I'm going to update everything. So let's say this person's missing a phone number. I can type in that person's phone number. Okay, maybe rates are missing. So in here, you see rates are missing. Okay, I can enter in rates for those. Okay. There's emails that's missing. I can add those in there. Again, phone numbers. If there's someone's missing a phone number, I can add that in there. Okay. Making sure your format's correct. Titles, if people's titles are missing, I can add those in there as well too. Okay. So you have your different options. Once you're done with this, all you're going to do is you're going to save this. You're going to save that file, save it somewhere that you can find it, and then you're going to complete your import, just as we've done before. So there's my file. I'm going to click Save. Once I'm done saving, I can go back to SalamanderLive and then complete my import to update those existing records. It's as simple as that. Browse, find that file, and then update. And then review your import results. Okay, so any questions on the people side? On editing, using the import to edit existing records. All right, no questions? All right, let's move to the equipment side now. So on the equipment side, we've got our own quick reference guide and template. So the process that we walk through for people is exactly the same as it is for equipment/inventory. Okay. So again, if you've subscribed to asset management, you can add in and utilize those additional inventory fields within the import template. So again, if you click on equipment, you should see the import wizard. From there, again, there's two click here buttons. First one is the instructions, which I highly recommend you review, and the CSV template. They're named as such. Okay, so while that's downloading, I'm going to click here to download the CSV template. Okay. There's a template. You'll see it's very similar to the people side, except now your fields are very specific to a piece of equipment, okay, or an inventory item. So going back in here, looking at our quick reference guide, you have a similar checklist. Okay. In this case, it's the exact same checklist, except you've got some of these are very specific for equipment. Okay. Format requirements, obviously same thing. It's got to be a CSV file. Making sure that the organization exists and matches within SalamanderLive. Assets are matched by the ID and organization name. So again, if it finds multiple matches, the record's not going to update, okay? So again, that's for updating. ID fields, exactly the same. If you're looking at using system generate IDs for your assets, simply leave that ID column blank and the system will auto-generate ID numbers for those records. If you want something that's more custom, of course, enter that in the template. Okay. The status in this case is different. Okay, so in SalamanderLive, there's a couple statuses for a piece of equipment. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to show you this real quick. If we go to equipment side, okay, so we're looking at a non-consumable item. Let me just pull one up real quick here so I can show you. So the statuses in this case, you'll see that there is a list of statuses. Okay. So there's available, out of service, missing, being service. Assigned is grayed out. That can only be done through the inventory app. Okay. So you'll see that out of service and being service are the other two. In our imports only accept missing and available. That is it. So that's what you have here is pick list is available or missing. Okay. So it's vice versa. If you're changing one, if you're updating one from available to missing or missing to available, that's it. You can't change it from available to out of stock or out of stock back to available. If it's out of stock or being serviced, that has to be done either through SalamanderLive, through that feature I just showed you by clicking on change status, or you can do that through the inventory app. There's an adjust item feature within the inventory app that you can scan in that equipment QR code and go in and change that status. For consumables, that status is controlled by your quantity on hand. So if your quantity on hand for a consumable item is 0, then that status changes to, status changes to out of stock. If you have quantity available, then it changes it to available. Okay, so again, you can't go in here and change it for a consumable item. That's all done automatically by your quantity on hand. Okay, so for example, in this case, I'm looking at these P95 masks. You see in here, it's available. I don't have a change button. Okay, that is changed by your quantity. So you got to change your quantity in here. If you change it to 0, this becomes out of stock. Okay. So again, you're going through, you've got your different options in here. You've got auto require, deployable. You'll see that there's different options for that for what it accepts. So make sure you review that. Parent ID and parent equipment organization name. So if you are looking at creating parent-child relationships with your equipment, make sure that you go in there and grab the parent ID number and the parent organization name. So for example, if you have a trailer and a truck and you want to link that trailer to that specific truck, you want to make sure that you go in and grab that truck's ID number and that organization name. Okay, if that truck's already existing in the database. And I have workflows in this document that walks through that process when it comes to parent-child relationships and that process. So you see in here, I've got 3 different workflows. Workflow number 1, 2, and 3. You can kind of go through and review which one works best for you. One talks about setting parent, or sorry, adding parent-child equipment for parent equipment already exists in the system. It just shows you how to fill that out. So again, you're going in there, copying the parent ID, adding the parent organization, and then completing your import. Workflow 2 is where you're using custom IDs. You can create and add every single one in the same import. I'll show you examples on that. And then last one is when you're doing system generated IDs. If you do system generated IDs, you got to go through this workflow. Add the parent first, especially when they don't exist. Add the parent first, so import the parent, and then import the child if there is another tier. So you've got grandchildren for that parent that parent equipment, then you do the parent and so on and so forth. Okay, so you got to do the grandchildren, great grandchildren, and so on and so forth. So I'll show you an example in this case. So I've got my equipment. I'm going to add my organization. So again, okay. So County Public Health, I've got an ID number. Let's say I'm going to use a system generator ID. What is the name of that piece of equipment? Okay, you can go in there and add in that piece of equipment. Let's say it's a tent. Okay. Again, you can put sizing in here if you want to. Again, just making sure that you go back in and review what is the max length for characters for that field. Okay. Description, anything else you want to enter in for this piece of equipment. Now, status, I'm going to leave it blank. This is going to automatically put this in as available. Everything else that's in here is all optional. If you're looking at not using those fields, completely delete them. Okay. I'm going to add in here, let's say I'm going to add in some chairs. Let's do metal chairs. Okay. Okay. Status in this case, deployable. I'm going to go over here. There's a column in this case. You can create categories if you want to. Add existing categories. I'm just going to delete some of this stuff in here. Okay. You got cost codes, rates, funding source. There's consumable. In this case, you can go through that document that says true or false. Okay, so this one is false. This one is true. If you have consumable items, make sure that you're entering in your quantity. So these are for chairs. Again, you have your option chairs. If you want to put those as consumables, you want to put those as non-consumable. It's completely up to you. It's how you want to track them, right? So in this case, I can put in here that they're true. When you issue them out, it's not going to show that you received them back. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to put quantity in here. I'm just going to do 10. You can do your max in stock is 10, reorder quantity. When we get down to 1, quantity sold in unit, sold as 1, okay, and how it's sold as 1 unit. So you have your options for filling out this information. Okay. So in this case, if I'm trying to link these two together, because they're both new records, I have to create them as two separate if I'm using system generated. So I have to import this tent first, and then I can come back and do another import to import in the metal chairs by grabbing in the tent ID that's created by the system and then add in the organization. Okay, so just something to note. Let me just, if you're using custom, this is where you can go in. So if this is a tent, so I'm going to, that's the ID 01 chair. That's the ID. Okay. You have your options. So in this case, the parent ID is going to be tent 01. And then parent organization is the exact same over here. So I'm just copying and pasting it over here. Okay. So now it's going to import in both. It's going to add in the tent with this ID number. It's going to add in the metal chairs in here, and it's going to link it to tent 01. So all it's doing is going to fill in that field. So if we go into SalamanderLive here, what I'm talking about is the parent-child equipment field. So here it is, the parent field. That's all it's doing. It's tying those two records together. Question on here. If after you import the parent-child relationship changes, can you make a child a parent or a grandparent of a child? Yes. You can just go in there and then just change who the new parent is going to be. So all you're doing is you're updating your import file and just changing the parent ID and the parent organization. Simple as that. So if I go to my equipment in here, so if I go in here, let's say it's not 10 to 1, and I'll do that so you can actually see that happen. Okay, so I'm gonna filter this by my county, public health, so you can see the data. Okay, so here's a bunch of the stuff. So I got a bunch of chairs in there and as non-consumable. So let's do this import. So I'm gonna save this. So I'm gonna save as equipment, add in my folder. Number 14, that's what I'm saving it as. I'm gonna go in SalamanderLive, do my import. equipment, browse, find my file, double click, upload file. Okay, and I'm going to receive an email. If I upload this, I should have those two entered in here. Okay. So this is going to be in last updated. So I'm going to change this. This is why I like using this last update. I can just sort it from newest to oldest. Okay. And there it is. Both of them are created. Okay. So if I maximize this, you can see this here. So you see metal chairs and tent was created. Tent 01 chairs. And you'll see that I parented it. Again, if you're looking at adding these columns, again, go up to edit columns. You can go in there, add in the column header that you want. Add it here. Just simply click the plus button, click, drag and drop to change your sort order, click done. And that's what I did here. So that's why it's showing now I've got those two that's linked together. If I want to go and change that, let's say those metal chairs are not going to go with this tent. They're going to go with this folding table right here. I can just go in here and change, or I'm going to do it for this one here. Okay. Or I can change this one because I can change the status as well. So I'm going to grab an ID number. Just go to my file. Okay, so this tent's already created. I can delete that. My chairs, I'm going to add in this ID number. Okay, that's all I'm doing in this case. I can click save. Again, I'm going to save as, throw my file in here. Go to my desktop. Here, I'm going to save this as something else. This is going to be update. Click save. To name it as you need to so you can find it. I'm going to complete my import. Browse, find my file. There it is. Update, upload file. Click done. Okay. You can go in here and double check when it's completed. Okay. So here it is. You see that metal chair is now changed. There's the parent ID folding table. Again, you're getting emails at the same time frame that's telling you whether or not you have your imports, whether or not your import completed. So far, all of mine have been perfect imports. So this is the goal right here, right? Whether you're doing a person import or equipment import, this is your goal, is where it's a perfect import where it processed those records and then added those records or added all those or updated all those records. Okay, so that's perfect import. So both of them. So this was the very first one I did for those two records. And then here's the second one. So again, perfect import, no issues. Again, I didn't add a lot of information in my import file. That's why it's a lot easier. But again, highly recommend when you're doing import, just do small batches at a time. So when you're reviewing the emails, you don't get overwhelmed. Now the email results, it does cap them at 100 records. So that's what I recommend is keeping it at less than 100 records. Okay. Any other questions? Again, if you have equipment that you need to update, it's just like on the people side, you have two options. You can go in here, set your filter, and then you can go in here, select your records, just like we did before. Okay. Let's say we need to change some statuses in this case. Okay. So you see in this one, I'm going to change these ones from missing. I'm going to filter by missing. Let's say these are no longer missing. I got these 3 items that are no longer missing. I want to change that status. I can select all of those and I can click the edit multiple. Again, this edit multiple only works, it works best when you have those records that are having the same edits. Okay, so again, I'm going to edit multiple. Okay, you can go in here. And then you can go in here, you can edit what you need to. Okay. So if you want to change the rate, you can want to change the cost out of that. You want to change the category, feel free to what you need to in here. Okay. If you want to mark it as deployable, you have your option. It's the exact same as before. The other option, of course, is exporting this out and then again working off the import file. So I'm going to filter, I'm going to send all this out. So in this case, oh, I didn't mean to remove my filter. I'm going to do this as missing again. I'm going to change these statuses from missing to available. So in this case, I'm going to go up here. I'm going to add my report. Click on report, click on CSV export. Again, this one is the only one that you can customize based off the columns and filters you have. Pull this report. Here's my CSV file. Maximize the columns, delete column A. I don't need that. There's my ID number. Again, I'm going to change this so that it changes to number. Move the decimal point over. Okay. Status is missing. This is where we can change it. Remember, the import allows you for changing it from available to missing or missing to available. So in this case, we're going to change these to available. Let's say we found them. Somehow they were found. They're no longer missing. They're now in as available. Okay. Nothing changes with this. Let's say we've got the cost of this. This is, what is this? Medical kit. Say this is $500. We're going to add that cost in there. We're not doing anything with parent and description. I can delete those columns. I'm not editing that. So this case, once we're done in this case, all we're doing is going to save this, save as, find our file again. So it's 10566. I'm going to click save. Again, you can save it, the name whatever you want. I'm just leaving it as the file name. Click save. I can go back to SalamanderLive, complete my import for my editing of existing records, browse, find the file, there it is, double click, upload. It's going to upload that file. You receive it within 1 to 15 minutes. Usually it's pretty quick when you only have a few that you're looking at doing. Okay, so now you see that the statuses have changed. You see there, I clear my filters. It's now not going to show them as missing. So I need to clear that filter. I can go up here. I can look at last updated, and there it is. They changed all of those to available, and I put that cost in there for $500. Okay. Any questions? I see one question in here. We are going to purchase asset management with inventory app. Do they integrate with SalamanderLive with this process? Yes. So the asset management piece, just so that everybody's clear on here. So everybody with it, everybody that purchases SalamanderLive gets the standard equipment database. So, and that's unlimited. So what I mean by standard equipment database is that when you go in here, I'm going to clear my files in here real quick here. So a standard, you'll see in here the difference between the two is this here, is that when you go in, when you click and create a record, the standard basically can create any piece of equipment. The difference is that you're not going to see this consumable. Okay. So this consumable checkbox only comes with an asset management subscription. Okay, because that consumable checkbox, what it does is it opens up that 6 tab for inventory that allows you to enter in the quantity on hand and so on and so forth for that consumable item. Okay. The other thing is in the record itself, there is an alert section. This section is, again, only opened to those organizations or accounts that subscribe to asset management. So it allows you to go in there and create all different types of alerts. When those alerts are created, you can go in there, subscribe to receiving the alert notifications when they expire. So obviously, this hasn't been updated for a long time. So, I mean, if you don't manage these alerts, they can get pretty crazy like mine right here. Okay. So that's alerts. You can add all different types of alerts in here. The other thing that you'll get in there is reports. So with the asset management, you get all of these reports. So you get alert, report, full inventory issued, so on and so forth. Okay. If you don't have asset management, you just have a standard equipment database, all you have is the CSV export report. That is it. Okay. So those are the difference between a standard account and an account that is subscribed to asset management. No problem, Danny. Have a great day. Thank you for joining. All right. Any questions on this? Any questions? Okay, question. If we're looking to use a barcode system, do you recommend adding the barcode after or before import? Barcode system, meaning you already have existing ID numbers, meaning that your equipment right now already is using some sort of ID system.
No, we don't. Currently, we don't have any. We're looking to add barcodes to everything. And I don't know if there is a recommended way to. I know that in Salamander it provides a barcode. I mean, a QR code
Mm-hmm.
when you actually add the processes. But for inventory purposes, as far as like consumables and such, we were talking about getting a barcode system and then having numbers, you know, it being a barcode system that was an individual number system. So I don't know whether that would conflict with what already exists in Salamander, or if it would be better without, or
So if you wanted to use a barcode system and you're creating ID numbers for that new barcode system,
uh-huh.
what you would enter in here for your consumables is that ID number that you've created for that barcode system,
Okay.
so that the two matches. Now, our applications, if you're looking at issuing and using the inventory app and looking at scanning those
Uh-huh.
barcodes, just know that our inventory app is, we can only scan our types of barcodes that's printed from our system. So if you have that barcode system that you've purchased outside of Salamander and you're looking to use that, just know that it can't be scanned into our system. So
Right.
that's the only thing. Yep. But you can
Right.
still manually go in the inventory app and search by that item, which then you can just manually complete that issuance.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Uh, Question here, Jonathan, where can I locate the Excel spreadsheets to fill in and import? That is all here within the import. So if you go to import, you click on people. If it's people you're looking at importing, there's the template. You click here. See here, there's two click here's down here. There's a click here for the instructions. It's going to pull up the PDF document of how to fill out the form. And then you've got right here, which is a CSV template. So that's for people, and equipment's exact same. Click on equipment and then there's your two. You got your instructions and you got your CSV template. The other area that you can go is within Salamander University. And here, I think of this as a secondary only because you have to click in two different areas to get the documents. So you have to go to documents. You have to click on quick reference guide to actually get the instructions. So there it is, people quick reference, and then the equipment quick reference. And then to get the templates, you have to click under templates to find the two. So that's the reason why I always go through and I always show how to do it in here, because they're both available in one area. Okay. You're welcome, Jonathan. Anybody else have other questions for me on importing? No questions? All right, well, I will end the call here by just going through a review. So some best practices real quick here. So I'm just going to go into this real quick and just show you this best practices slide real quick here. Let me just go back over here. So some best practices. So again, for completing an import, again, this is just so that you can minimize as many errors as you need to. So first things, try to utilize our import templates. Again, this is just to mitigate column header errors. Spot check the data to ensure that it is accurate and it's in the acceptable formats. Again, that's all outlined through our import quick reference guide. Okay. When uploading parent-child equipment, just make sure that you're considering the order of operations before you're uploading that data. So go back through and look at those multiple workflows I have in the quick reference guide. Make sure you're deleting any unused columns to help keep the import file clean. Okay. Again, those columns, they don't have to be in any order. The column header names is what's important. So if you have organization name in column D instead of column A, the import wizard's not picking that case. All it's looking for is there a organization name column listed? And does it have the records? Do they have the correct organization information? Okay. Ensure that the import file only contains one worksheet. Very important. Don't add multiple worksheets in your import file. Make sure that you're importing data in smaller batches. Again, this is to lessen any runtime and data errors. This one I didn't talk about, and which I'm going to talk about right here. So I apologize, I missed on this. Custom fields cannot be imported in. So this is again as of today. So don't include custom fields if you are using custom fields within your import. They are not going to be imported in. So if you look at the import template, it does not have any of the custom fields in there. Okay, so if you don't see that field listed within my template, that means it is not going to be importable. Okay, so it's not part of the wizard. Last but not least, complete the import checklist. Again, making sure you complete that. That's going to help you in making sure you have all the information so that you have a perfect or near perfect import. All right, so those are just some of the best practices for importing data. All right, any questions on these best practices? Anything you guys needed me to go over again or need clarification on? Again, this is just everything that we've just covered. Is there a minimum required fields for the imports? Minimum required fields. You mean minimum required fields? Can you explain what you're asking?
So you say if we're, in order to keep the template clean, to delete whatever we're not using, but how do I know what's a required field and what's not a required field?
The required fields are in the template, so it tells you in the templates right here. So anything that has an asterisk in there, that's required.
That's okay.
Yep. So like for example, for a piece of equipment, whether that's, in inventory or not, all it requires is these three right here. Everything else is optional. So if you're adding in, let's say you want to add in status because you're going to be changing things from available to missing, or you want to, mark ones as deployable, everything else can be deleted from your template.
I misunderstood you when you said it the first time, and I feel really silly now because I was thinking that the asterisk was going to be somewhere on the template, not on the instruction sheet. So I was like, how do I know which one it is on the template? Okay, never mind. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, we can't add it in the template here because then
it would change it would nullify the information. Right.
Correct.
Gotcha.
We'd have issues. So what I recommend you do is on your template, just highlight those in red. The colors don't do anything. It's not going to mess up your import. So you just know that, hey, I got to make sure I have, for a piece of equipment, I have the name, the ID, and organization name. For people, I've got first name, last name, ID, and organization name. Again, it doesn't have to be in any order. You see this? I've got A is name, B is ID, and C is an organization name. Doesn't have to be in any order.
Now. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions before we end today's call? All right, everybody. I want to thank you all so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I'll put my contact information up here. So just reach out to me at training@salamanderlive.com. You can also call our 877 number. This is our 24/7 support line. So if you got technical questions or you got training questions, give us a call. Thank you, everybody, so much for your time today. Hopefully, I'll see you guys next month. Next month, we are going to be covering, I don't even remember what we're covering next month. Next month, we are covering, let's see here. What are we covering next month? I can't remember what we're covering next month here. Oh, merging events. So if you are someone that manages events and you want to learn how to merge events, whether that's through a internal join or pin join, please join me next month. Look into our channel bulletins, which has the dates and the invites. You can go ahead and save those to your calendar. If you don't receive those bulletin through your email me and I'll add you to our distribution list, or I'll forward you over the invites themselves. Is there a sign up list to be added? Yes. Yep. Jennifer, just if you can add your email here and I'll make sure to add you to our distribution list for those, for the bulletin and for our training emails that come through. All right, everybody. Thank you all so much. Hopefully today was helpful, and you're able to take some of what you learned today to help with your import process. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.